Hello, this is Patrick Barnard in Montreal. It is Friday, March 7th, 2025, and this is the 6th edition of the International Press Review. I'm going to be talking today about a phenomenon that was really striking this week in the global press, and that is a loss of faith in the United States of America. You can see it everywhere. I'm going to give you an indication of how fierce this feeling is by playing a clip of a French politician speaking in the Senate, in the French Senate, discussion on Ukraine. His name is Claude Malhuret. He is a center-right politician who was at one time the president of Médecins Sans Frontières. His words are very surprising. I will give you a translation of them immediately after you listen to him.
L'Europe est à un tournant critique de son histoire. Le bouclier américain se dérobe, l'Ukraine risque d'être abandonnée, la Russie renforcée. Washington est devenu la cour de Néron, un empereur incendiaire, des courtisans soumis et un bouffon sous kétamine chargé de l'épuration de la fonction publique. C'est un drame pour le monde libre, mais c'est d'abord un drame pour les États-Unis. Le message de Trump est que rien ne sert d'être son allié puisqu'il ne vous défendra pas, qui vous imposera plus de droits de douane qu'à ses ennemis et vous menacera de s'emparer de vos territoires tout en soutenant les dictatures qui vous envahissent.
Monsieur Malhuret, the man you've just heard, is a conservative French politician. I think what's significant here is the tone, the tremendous disenchantment with the United States. Now, this is something that I found in many, many newspapers this week. So I made a little translation of what you heard in French, and I'll read it to you. Europe is at a critical turning point in its history, Monsieur Malhuret said. The American defense shield is vanishing. Ukraine is in danger of being abandoned. Russia strengthened. Washington has become the court of Nero, with an incendiary emperor, servile courtiers, and a court fool on ketamine, given the job of purging the civil service. It is a drama for the free world, but above all, for the United States. Trump's message is that it is worthless to be his ally because he will not defend you, he will impose higher tariffs on you than on your enemies, and he will threaten to grab your territory, all the while supporting the dictatorships that invade you. That was what Monsieur Malhuret said. Of course, it was in the context of his attempt to defend Ukraine. But we're going to look at a number of countries that have been basically threatened by the United States in the last weeks. The first of those countries threatened by the United States, obviously, is Ukraine. And we saw that the world saw it in that extraordinary and strange event in the White House with Zelensky and Trump and the American vice president. It shocked the world. And it's interesting, I've got here in my hands a report from the Kyiv Independent, which began in 2021. It's a very prominent news source in Ukraine. It's in the English language. And here's the editorial, I'm just going to read it, that they put out after the Zelensky-Trump meeting. Editorial: a president just disrespected America in the Oval Office. It wasn't Zelensky. It's time to say it plainly. America's leadership has switched sides in the war. The American people have not, and they should speak up. And later on, there's a section of the editorial, Donald Trump is for Russia. The President of the United States picked Russia's side in the war it started against its democratic neighbor, whose only fault was that it wanted to stay a democracy. Trump is choosing to side with a murderous tyrant over a democratically elected leader. Trump and his government are now making sure Ukraine will lose this war.
And I also have a message tonight for the incredible people of Greenland. We strongly support your right to determine your own future. And if you choose, we welcome you into the United States of America. We need Greenland for national security and even international security, and we're working with everybody involved to try and get it. But we need it really for international world security, and I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it.
That laughter in the United States Congress when it came to Greenland provoked a response in Greenland itself. What you're seeing on your screen is a headline story in Samitsiaq. That's a newspaper of record in Greenland itself. The name of the paper means something like forward in English. The person you're seeing is Erik Jensen. He is the head of a party called Siumut. He's probably the most prominent politician in Greenland, even though he isn't prime minister, and he's an expert on minerals. And the story reads as follows: Erik Jensen on Trump. Disrespect from the U.S. is worrying. According to Erik Jensen, Siumut has followed Trump's speech closely, and he believes that both the message and the behavior in the speech were terrible. Quote, "We have seen how people laughed when the president mentioned Greenland. It confirms that there is no respect for us. We have shown respect and wanted to cooperate with them, but their behavior is worrying," says Erik Jensen. Again, Jensen is the head of Siumut, the major party in the Greenland parliament. Now, of course, Greenland, as you know, is a Danish territory, albeit with home rule. And here you're seeing the headline in a Danish newspaper, and you see the faces of Trump and the Danish Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen. Now, they had a famous quarrel about Greenland some 3 weeks ago. Shortly after that, Denmark raised its defense budget very dramatically. Here's the story. U.S. Embassy reacts to new poll from Berlingske. Berlingske is one of the oldest newspapers in the whole world, dates back to the mid-18th century. This is the story. Danes have lost confidence in the U.S. as an alliance partner. This is according to a new poll conducted by Verian for Berlingske. Verian is a very well-known polling research operation.
To further enhance our national security, my administration will be reclaiming the Panama Canal, and we've already started doing it.
Donald Trump's remarks to the United States Congress about Panama and reclaiming the Panama Canal sent a shiver around the globe. Why? Because the United States has actually invaded militarily the country of Panama within living memory. The next day, March 5th, the Panamanian press was full of reaction, and the president of Panama, Jose Raul Molino, reacted very strongly. I'm going to look just at one paper. It's called Critica. It's a national paper in Panama, and it carried the headline, "Molino responds to Trump. Trump lies again." The president of the Republic, Jose Raul Molino, reacted to recent statements by the U.S. President Donald Trump, who again promised to reclaim the Panama Canal. Through his personal account on X, Molino responded to Trump as follows, quote, "Once again, President Trump is lying. The Panama Canal is not in the process of being reclaimed. The Panama Canal is Panamanian and will remain Panamanian." The Panama Canal is the symbol of the independence of Panama. And the canal was handed over to Panama in 1999, a little more than 25 years ago, as a result of negotiations and a treaty organized by diplomats and officials of the United States itself. So there you have it. In Panama and many other places in the world, the Trump administration is literally turning the world upside down. And everywhere you can see this loss of faith in the United States. Nowhere has this negative sea change been more evident than in Canada, once the best friend and ally of the United States. From the very beginning, the Trump administration decided deliberately to carry out an aggressive trade war against Canada. And President Trump, in his remarks, has been rude, dismissive about Canada, talking openly about his desire to annex the country. in a denial, really, of Canadian sovereignty. There's been a very, very negative reaction to all of this in Canada, and it's best represented in the press, I think, by a recent op-ed piece. It was written by Andrew Coyne, a rather conservative commentator who is furious about what is happening. So I'm going to read it to you. It was last Wednesday, March 5th. The title of the op-ed, Donald Trump is trying to destroy Canada. So here are some excerpts. The President of the United States is trying to destroy us, writes Andrew Coyne. The point is not to force us to the negotiating table. The point is to break us. When he talks about invading Greenland or seizing the Panama Canal or using, quote, economic force, unquote, to annex Canada, he means it. In time, perhaps, the American people will come to their senses. But the damage is done. Mr. Trump will never realize his dreams of annexation. He has, however, succeeded in destroying the trust between our two nations, probably permanently. And that is what I found all over the world this past week, the destruction of trust in the United States. This is Patrick Barnard with the 6th edition of the International Press Review, speaking to you from Montreal, Quebec, Canada.